of this that's hanging over it all is Bronny James. And I tweeted about this yesterday, and I tend not to love wading into the waters of like talking negatively about prospects in general. But it was alluded to, let's say, in the Athletics article about all of this from Anthony Slater, Sam Amick, and I think Jovan Bua did it. The Lakers, per the high-ranking team source that somebody talked to, are willing to explore the notion of adding Bronny James next season. The stance, the source said, is rooted in the reality that LeBron's happiness truly matters to the organization. I get it that LeBron wants to play with Bronny, and I can tell you that like this was absolutely a thing that came up during Bronny's recruitment, right? Like that LeBron and Bronny want to play together. You know, they want to be in the NBA together, everything like that. Let's start here. Actually, no, I'll say it first, so you don't have to say it first.
I can say it.
Bronny James, to this point in the season, has not been a legitimate 2024 NBA draft prospect.
Agreed.
Why do you believe that? Like when you watch Bronny, what are your takeaways from that?
Yeah, I mean, I am intrigued by Bronny. He's on my list. He's in my not 2024, but maybe 2025 list. I have 100 guys ranked. I have some more. And it's not even that he may not be better than some of the guys I have ranked. It's just like I've watched him play and I'm intrigued. There's defensive stuff there. It's, can he really shoot it? Those type of things. But I'm like, hey, another year, let him grow and develop. And he comes back next year and really kind of lives up to that in terms of the 3-and-D, I guess, kind of archetype or whatever. And then I would be all in on it. But I just, you talk about this, you don't rank freshmen that are outside your 50 or 60 or something like that.
Top 50. We're getting to the point where at this point in the season, I'll start to do it.
Sure.
Because if guys declare for the draft, like I have to consider them at the end of the day, right? That's the reality. But I don't like to do it. No, I think it's a little bit irresponsible on my part.
And the other thing is just like, I was talking to a scout the other day and they were essentially like, I sent him my board and they were like, Bryce, anybody past your top 60, you probably shouldn't have any of these little guards over wings. Like if you're going to take like a chance on like a two-way undrafted guy, teams are going to want wings. Now, that's not an end-all be-all. I'm not saying, and this was just one scout of many that I talked to, and this was their take. But my thing is like, so then if I don't think Bronny's top 60 and he's a guard, then why am I putting him over some of these wings that I have as undrafted free agent types? And the other thing is, we brought this up. There's a lot of guards I like. And it's, is he better than, like, who's better right now, Bronny James or Hunter Salas?
Hunter Salas is so far ahead of Bronny right now.
But Hunter Salas isn't a first round pick. Is he a guaranteed second round pick?
I have Hunter like in the 25 to 45.
Okay.
Right now,
so good. You're a little higher. Good. Because I've felt a little crazy with how high I want to have him. But like there's just name after name is like, is Bronny better than this guy? Is he better than this guy? And I'm not even sure you should be taking this guy in the second round. Now I'm looking at Lakers have the 57th pick, Sam. So I guess if you say it's worth keeping LeBron James in LA by taking Bronny with the 57th pick, I wouldn't argue that, I guess. I find myself going, is this what's best for Bronny? If Bronny is truly on a path to the NBA, is this? Maybe it is. Maybe being there with the Lakers, with his dad, with their player development and everything else, maybe it is. Maybe that's better than staying another year in college. I don't know. I find myself wondering that because I feel like this is the first time where truly just the fact that he's LeBron James's son is getting him way more hype than what he should, right? Like he was a legit Division I basketball player, recruit and all of that. He is now a legit Division I basketball player. He is a legit NBA draft prospect, but I don't think he's a 2024 NBA draft prospect based off what we've seen so far.
So I agree with all of that. And I want to kind of give like a baseline view of Bronny here as we kind of dive into this, right? So Bronny right now is playing for a 9-15 USC team that has been arguably the most disappointing team in college basketball this season. That's fair to say, right?
Yeah. I,
They have Isaiah Collier. They had a top 5 recruiting class this year.
Kobe
Kobe
Johnson.
Johnson is a guy that I really like and think has a real chance to play in the NBA. And we'll kind of talk about Bronny and Kobe Johnson, honestly, I think is an interesting point of comparison long term. But Bronny right now is playing for that team. He's averaging 5.8 points, 3 rebounds, 2.6 assists, 0.8 steals in 21 minutes a night. He's shooting 35.6% from the field and 27.1% from 3, 61.5% from the line. He is a smart ball mover, I guess I would say. He knows how to make quick rotations. He knows how to make quick reversals. He is a physical defender at the point of attack. I think he does a pretty good job on that end, if I'm being honest. I think he's like actually quite good on defense, like against Cal recently. I watched that game this morning, actually. He got the Jalen Tyson matchup and did okay against Jalen, I thought. They matched him up with a few different guys like Jalen Cone, and then at times they had him as like the low man, like kind of guarding a corner shooter, things like that. But the problem with Bronny right now, kind of above all, is that he is I think he was measured at like 6'2.5" or so, something like that, 6'2.5", 6'3". Guard, who's like a 3-and-D guard, and that's really the skill set, right? Like Toby in the comments asks, can Bronny be a Deuce McBride level player? That's worth a 2nd-round pick for sure. I would agree, but Deuce was way ahead in terms of the ball skills. Like way, way, way far ahead in terms of where he was with the ball in his hand in college at West Virginia. Think about when you watch Deuce McBride now. Like, I'm not saying it's hard for him to dribble in the NBA right now, but he's not like a playmaker. Like, the reason that he hasn't been able to play a ton with the Knicks for the most part is that like he's not really a true point guard necessarily. Like, he's a great defender. He can knock down shots. He can at times like initiate and bring the ball up the court. But like in that Cal game, I don't know if like Bronny got a paint touch in that Cal game. He might have gotten like 1 or 2, but it didn't feel like he was able to pressure the rim at all. And that's always been a thing going back with him. In half court settings, like what is his role? It's going to be like as a shooter, and it's going to be as a defender on defense, but he's like 6'2.5", and it's if he was like 6'6", it would be a different conversation. But being that small really changes things. And again, that's why like I think the Kobe Johnson thing is kind of an interesting contrast here, because Kobe Johnson is a better defender than he is right now. He's like pretty close to the same level shooter, right? He can pass, he can play make, he can do all the stuff. It's just that Kobe is like 6'5.5".
Yeah.
And like bigger, and like I don't know if he's stronger. Bronny's pretty strong, but like Kobe Johnson is like just bigger. He's kind of a better bet, I think, than Bronny. And I don't have Kobe Johnson in my top 60 right now because Kobe hasn't had a good year.
He hasn't shot the ball well. Yeah. I pulled up. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was just gonna say I just pulled up Deuce's like college stats. Deuce also shot 41% from 3 his sophomore year. Deuce averaged what 5? This is per 40, 5.7 assists his sophomore year. Honestly, their freshman year numbers are somewhat similar, Sam. But again, was Deuce McBride getting drafted? And here's the other thing. How much was that development of one more year of college part of that's
where I want to go. Yeah.
Part of his success that he's having now.
This is the biggest thing. If you were to put Bronny in the G League right now, right? I think it would be very difficult for him to get on ball reps against the guys that he'd be playing against. In college, if he shows some improvement, and look, like Bronny had like a tough year this year. Like he had the heart
Yeah,
uh,
sure.
incident in the summer, probably got behind the eight ball a little bit. But even so, like the skill set on the ball has always been a little bit deficient for a guy that's 6'2.5", right? 6'3", whatever we want to call him. He has a much better chance of getting the developmental reps that he needs on the ball in order to play like potentially as a 3-and-D point guard. Like Patrick Beverly, Deuce McBride, guys like that. These are the kind of players worth comparing him to. Pat Bev was a killer with the ball in his hands when he was in college. And then he went over to Europe and was a killer with the ball in his hands. Deuce McBride was amazing. He was like a borderline All-American the year I thought that he was at West Virginia. And I ended up with him as like a top 20, top 25 prospect in that class, something like that. It's going to be a lot easier for Bronny to get the reps that he needs by staying in school, I think, than it is by going to the G League. And I think that my opinion on it is that it would be harmful for Bronny hitting his ceiling and his potential as a potential NBA player once LeBron, his career ends and once things finish. The goal here, in my opinion, is not for LeBron to play with Bronny. The goal here is to create a sustaining, long-lasting NBA player in Bronny James. That's how I think about all of this with prospects. And to me, that shouldn't change just because Bronny is LeBron's son. Putting him through to this 2024 draft would be rushing this so substantially and drastically to where it's really hard for me to get behind. Like it is, you listen to the way that LeBron, like not listen to it, like, well, I guess listen to it because LeBron is the one that said, oh, like Bronny could be in here and he'd be like better than some of the guys like on the team or whatever.
Didn't he say he
Like
could
he
be
said
like
that
in their rotation today or something like
could be in
that?
their rotation today. Like that's crazy to me. You compare that with the way that Carmelo in the 7 p.m. in Brooklyn podcast with Kid Miro talks about Kyan and building Kyan's career. Kyan is like just as interesting a long-term prospect as Bronny is. And Carmelo is talking about it from the perspective of, hell no, like if he's not ready to go to the NBA, he better sit his ass back in school and like get ready because that's the way that we're going to go. It's just a reduction of expectations, I think, that is critical when trying to figure all of this out and when trying to not put pressure on the player himself in Bronny's case and Kyan's case. And I much prefer the Carmelo way to go about it. Like I think that it sets up the kid within the social media heavy atmosphere and hype world that we live in now for a better chance of like not being seen as a disappointment in some way. Like Bronny shouldn't be seen as a disappointment. Like he's a legitimate like D1 basketball player.
Big time.
Like
That's
he's
big
not a
time.
one and done because like people put him in the top 10 of mock drafts this year, which was completely crazy from the jump.
Yeah.
Like that you should never like see that as being a reflection on the kid, who, by the way, like anytime I've seen that kid in person, anytime like I was there at Hoop Summit, right? He was so well adjusted and was like super impressive and like was so like smart when you'd hear him speak. It was like to grow up around everything he's had with like LeBron and everything. Like it's such a it's like a reflection on like LeBron and his partner Savannah, like building such an impressive kid in the face of so much pressure and hype around him. But like it's also that this kid is a good kid and like I hope that he's able to get through it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I also, well, first I want to say I understand the motivation here. Like the opportunity to play the game you love with your child would be amazing. Like my oldest son is 9 years old now, and I just think like even some of the stuff we get to do now, he watches games with me. He'll take stats. So I'm watching, guys play last night for NBA draft stuff, my scouting and whatever, and he's got his little notebook out keeping stats on them and all of that. So I get it, right? Like You were one of the greatest players ever walk the earth, and your son. And that's the other. I'm glad you said that, because it makes it sound like, oh, Bronny's not gonna, he may not be one and done. Like, no, like what he's accomplished is amazing. Like playing at that level of basketball. I mean, I shout out anybody who plays any sort of collegiate sport at any of the levels, because that takes a certain level of commitment. The other thing I would worry about, how many more years does LeBron have, Sam? What happens to Bronny and people's kind of commitment to growing him and him sticking in the NBA and all of that when LeBron is gone, right? Because while LeBron is there, they're going to make sure, but we know the NBA is a tough place to make it, even for the most talented of players. How invested our team's going to be in his success after LeBron is gone. And so I think I'm with you. Like sometimes there's guys like, hey, get out of the college situation, get to the pro level, start getting. I would prefer to see Bronny one more year. I think that is what would be best for him in terms of his development, his path into professional basketball and his basketball career and all of that. That's where I'm at. Again, I understand the motivation that, hey, playing with my kid would be amazing. But I side with you that I don't think that that's actually what best for Bronny's personal basketball path, not archetype, trajectory and everything else, and his success.
He needs the on-ball reps, I think, is the reality. Like you cannot be a 6'2", 6'3" guard in the NBA. And I know he's listed at 6'4", but like I don't think he's 6'4". You can't be that level, that size, and be a guard in the NBA and just not have like high level ball skills. It's just way too hard. It's just way too hard. I think he has a chance. That's why we talk about this and spend time on it.
Yeah.
It's not because we think that he's like not an NBA player and this is some weird like nepotistic thing. It's that like I do think he has a chance to play in the NBA at some point.
That's interesting, because if he didn't, I would say just draft him and let's get it over with. Give him a spot.
Correct.
Take him with the 57th pick and let's move on, and he'll be out of the NBA when LeBron retires. And great. I think we're showing him how much we believe in him by saying, no, let's not go down this path, because you have actual real NBA potential, not to just be hanging on because you're LeBron's son.
Right. Like people will bring up like the Thanasis Antetokounmpo,
sure.
Or like the one was like Kostas, got some real shots in the NBA for a while there. Like he's way better than Kostas Antetokounmpo. He is somebody that like has a real chance to play in the league, and I think that it's a developmental track that is precarious and fraught, I guess, and that he just needs time to develop. Like he needs time to figure out his game, like kind of work through some things and be able to get through all of that pathway. So we'll see where it lands. Yeah.
You bringing up the summer thing is important too. And of course, like all, like I'm sure his heart and everything, they did everything to make sure he could play. And I'm just so happy that he's healthy and able to play. Missing that summer is huge. And, the preparation for the season. So that's another thing that plays into it. Like we probably aren't seeing the best Bronny James we could have seen if he would have had all that preparation. Like going into your freshman year of college is hard just as a general student. My first year I went JUCO and then D1. Like my head was spinning for a semester, both stops, but I was a junior, Sam, going Division I. And my head was spinning the first semester, like just trying to keep up with everything. I couldn't imagine if I wouldn't have had the summer. I went up there and trained, got familiar, got acclimated to the city, all of those things. And so, like, who knows how good he could be next year if he gets a season of this, an off season to prepare, all of that, comes back, he shoots 38% from three and is this high level, Pac-12 defensive first team defender type of thing and all of that. And like, now we're talking about, hey, Bronny James is a top 40 guy, like legitimately, no matter who wants to draft him type of thing. And I think that's where we're both at, is this is a real prospect. Let's treat him like that, not as just a tag along to LeBron's career.
That, but I also wonder if, because all of this has happened, if Clutch and LeBron and Rich Paul and those folks see this as an opportunity to confirm that like because other teams might not take him or select him, that we can get him
Oh, yeah,
now,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
we can
yeah,
get him with LeBron. I just don't think it's going to be what's best for his development at the end of the day,
yeah.
but we'll see where it goes.